Hi there, I'm Subka, and this is the Apatros review. Now in the past few episodes we've covered the sequels to the Paranormal Activity franchise. Now we cap it off with this one, the review of the original. This American festival theatrical release, made by Oren Peli in the year 2007, but which actually saw a wide release around the world in 2009, is in Australia rated M, which means it's recommended for mature audiences, and for supernatural themes and coarse language. So from now on I'll tell you what the film was rated and classified in Australia if it's available. Now, Paranormal Activity 1 is it premiered in the world for the first time at the Screamfest Horror Film Festival in the US on the 14th of October 2007. Then at the Slamdance Film Festival on the 18th of January 2008, and then on the 6th of September 2009 at the Telluride Film Festival. These are all in America. It then had a limited theatrical release in the US on 25th of September 2009, and then in Canada it screened at Toronto on the 8th of October 2009, and then in South Korea at the Busan International Film Festival on the 11th of October 2009. Then it had a limited theatrical release in Canada and a general release in the US on the 16th of October 2009, and then it premiered in the UK on the 25th of November 2009, and then in Australia on the 3rd of December 2009, and then in New Zealand on the 7th of January 2010. And then it had a special screening back at the Screamfest Horror Films Festival on the 21st of October 2015. The film was directed, written, photographed, and edited by Oren Peli, who is a video game designer, and produced by him and Jason Blum. In fact, Jason Blum used the success from this film to pretty much create Blumhouse. And the main cast consists of Kay Featherston and Micah Sloat playing themselves. Now for the DVD, I should point out that it's in region 4, so if you want to import this disc from overseas, from Australia, you're going to need a multi-regional DVD player to play it, and also PAL compatible TV as well. And it's got 3 soundtracks in English 5.1, English stereo, and the English DTS 5.1, which is a half bit rate 5.1, the DTS. It's got English subtitles and runs for about 83 minutes, the theatrical version and alternate cut, which runs for about 82 minutes. And the supplement consists of an audio commentary with audio Oren Peli, an alternate ending, and a fan's bird gallery. I'll talk about more of that later. Now, after having reviewed all of the original line sequels, not including the 2021 spin-off Next of Kin of the Paranormal Activity franchise, we now take a look at the original film that started it all. This is micro-budgeted, something like only $15,000, which is probably as cheap as it gets to make a movie these days. Supernatural horror movie was one of the most well-known horror films of the 2000s, coming right at the tail end of the decade. Its original release was in 2007 in various film festivals, like I mentioned, before it got a worldwide theatrical release from 2009 onwards, and succeeded in becoming a huge word-of-mouth hit in pretty much the same way that George A. Romero's original Night of the Living Dead gained its success. Although in this case, Oren Peli was careful with his copyright listings. Now, to put my personal experience into this, I had heard stories of audiences getting spooked out during halfway throughout 2009. I don't remember exactly when I saw the film. It must have been very late in 2009, sometime in December of 2009, or possibly January 2010, I don't remember which. But I do remember getting so spooked out by the film that the entire audience, after the film had ended, walked out of the cinema with our faces so pale that we looked like we'd seen the proverbial ghost. In this case, we got a much more substantial look at the supernatural than we bargained for. Paranormal Activity is essentially a brutally simple, bare-bones tale of a young couple, Kay Featherston and Micah Sloat, playing themselves, which can be a pretty dumb decision for a horror movie cast, who start experiencing supernatural phenomena, usually in the middle of the night when they try to sleep. Micah, a day trader who had invested in a camera, decides to put his brand new camera to good use by placing it in their bedroom every night to record the unseen thing that goes bump in the night. But they and us are obviously in over our heads, as this supernatural entity turns out to be a demon, and it plans to use Kay for, well, something. Things do not bode well for our protagonist couple, that's for sure. While some people out there don't like the found footage films in general, at least Paranormal Activity does a good job of putting its cast and the audiences watching them through a rollercoaster of nerves, as the ingeniously simple formula of placing a camera in one spot and manipulating objects around the peripherals of the range of view is highly effective in getting us all spooked out, as these simple effects do nearly all the heavy lifting in the scares department. But, that being said, the film does stumble around very badly in many areas that ultimately weaken what could have been a horror classic. By choosing to go the found footage route, Oren Peli unfortunately shows that he doesn't seem to know what traditional camera setups tend to look like, as what we've seen on the screen, however convincing making us think that this is a real occurrence, winds up looking exactly like a home movie, which is what the found footage genre is basically about. As such, there's no style in watching people film themselves reacting to weird shit. Imagine what this would have been like if Oren Peli filmed this in anything other than a found footage format. The story is brutally simple and extremely limited in scope. There's no setup of the threat, no narrative complications, no resolution. All things a proper story needs to engage the audience on to make them think. Technically, the film does have a payoff, but regardless of which of the three endings to the film that you see, they all fail to resolve demonic presence other than to kill the protagonist couple. As for those three endings, in the first ending, the original ending, which played the original festival screenings, Katie heads downstairs, screams, and Mika makes his way downstairs. Some time passes, but then Katie returns to sit in the corner covered in blood. A day passes before the police break into the house to investigate, find Katie still sitting there before she finally snaps out of it and attacks the police officers, who are forced to shoot her. The film ends with a dedication. I saw this ending on a blackjack DVD my sister had at the time. In the theatrical ending, which is the one that's considered canon to the franchise storyline, once Mika heads downstairs to find Katie screaming, his body is flung into the camera before Katie, clearly demonically possessed, appears and attacks the camera. This is the ending I saw when I watched this movie theatrically. And in the alternate ending on the Australian DVD from Icon Entertainment, also available on various other DVDs and Blu-rays around the world, Katie returns from downstairs with a butcher knife and slits her throat. I did say this is actually the best of the three endings. It's absolutely brutal, but leaves no room for the sequels to happen. The direction is also very loose, as we somehow get the impression the movie had no script given the dialogue feels like the actors made up on the spot, with only a few clues towards story cohesiveness. It is not a very tightly wound story, and the home movie vibe gives us something of a bad smell. The result is a film that hasn't got much on the technical side of things to be impressive about, but at least you won't get bored watching it these days, and it did scare a lot of people when it came out back in 2007. The Ouija board scene was the spookiest of a lot, by the way. Now, Paranormal Activity gets a C+, 5 out of 10. This thing makes for a passable horror movie nowadays, but was at its best back in 2007. It hasn't aged that well, to be honest. Now, for gore nudity, there's no gore aside from some blood splattered close at the end and no nudity. Now, the Australian DVD comes from Icon Entertainment, which is only the second time this label has seen one of their discs on the Apatros review. The first was the infamous Lindsay Lohan flop, I Know It Killed Me. First off, the quality of the picture was significantly lower than that of the sequels, although this is due to the lesser quality photographic equipment that Oren Peli used to make this film. Remember kids, $15,000 doesn't get you very much in the way of technical resources. Not every low-budget filmmaker is like Ted V. Michaels, who owns his own studio and even he uses subpar film stock. Actually, Michaels was infamous for using leftover pieces of film known as short ends, which will result in some various color imbalances in his films. Well, for that being said, at least the picture's resolution here is decent enough, and there's no obvious artifacting seen here, so at least the technical quality is solid enough. The soundtrack fares better, being in 3 flavors for years: the default English 5.1, the English stereo track, and a DTS 5.1 in English, which is really good for amplifying Toby Demon's footsteps and unearthly growls. To be honest, I don't review DTS tracks at this point in time, since I don't own the necessary sound equipment to listen to DTS tracks. Also include are English subtitles and the audio commentary from Oren Peli himself. As for supplement, well, all we get besides the act track is the option to watch the DVD's alternate ending on its own, or you could watch it integrated into the movie thanks to an option that pops up before you play the movie itself. Basically, every time you press play movie, it asks you whether you want to watch the theatrical version or the one with the alternate ending. And that alternate ending also has optional audio commentary from Peli himself. And a short feature featuring selfies taken from various fans around the world, which is completely useless for a supplemental feature. Okay, so that's it for Paranormal Activity. It gets a C+, 5 out of 10. It's a passable film. If I reviewed this film when it came out back in 2007, so about more than a decade ago, it would have been like a B or a B+, but now since it hasn't aged that well. I mean, the found footage genre doesn't have that much of a shelf life. But that being said, I mean, it's definitely better than some of the Blair Witch Project, which was just irritating. And this one's it's pretty slick, but unfortunately, just it's not that standout. I mean, if you want to see a supernatural ghost story done, if you want to see a ghost story done perfectly, the original Haunting is the one to go. Anyway, but it's not a bad movie. It's passable. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, I don't do requests, but if you have any questions about DVDs or films, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take it easy, and that's it for this review. See ya.